the Hastur Mouth to Lung RTA from Cthulhu mod. Let's have a look. Hey guys, Vick here, back with another review. Today we are looking at this, the Hastur Mouth to Lung RTA from Cthulhu mod. 24mm wide, 3.5mm capacity, comes with a mouth to lung drip tip and a normal drip tip. Adjustable airflow. It also comes with 4 air restriction holes that you can put into the airflow of the tank, so you can reduce your airflow even further, all the way down to really tight mouth to lung. So 1mm I think is the smallest hole. So yeah, a very interesting mouth to lung tank from Cthulhu mod. Let's go down low. I'll put a build in it, I'll wick it. We need to talk about the wicking a little bit, because there is a bit of a knack to it and there are some pitfalls with the wicking. So we'll talk about that, we'll do all that, then we'll come back up top for pros and cons. See you in a sec. Okay guys, here we are with the Hastur Mouth to Lung RTA from Cthulhu. Really fancy packaging, really fancy box. Very pretty indeed. Opening her up, you have your spares. We'll come back to these. You get all your nuts for reducing the airflow in there, so we'll come back to that. We have a frosted tank. That's pretty cool that it comes with a frosted tank. And we have 2 drip tips, one on, one off. And the drip tips vary in bore. So if you're a bit mouth to lungy, like you'd expect with this tank, then you've got a very tiny hole. As you can see, that one is a bit bigger. You get your manual in there as well. Happy days. Now, this is your Hastur Mouth to Lung tank. Little 510 drip tip situation on top. You can see it is in a GTA style. You've got that Cthulhu logo in there. You've got your protruding 510. It says Hastur Mouth to Lung underneath. And yeah, pretty cool. Now, it's got this top fill. It's got a very interesting top fill design. I don't know if you can see, it looks a bit funky. You turn it a bit like that and it pops out. Pops out like that. Pretty cool, pretty nifty. So to put it back together, obviously you line up those grooves and you give it a turn like that. Very cool, very well done that, very snazzy, very clever. So, taking the tank apart, you can unscrew it here at the top, like that. And that all comes down off as one piece. You've got your glass tank there, very easy to switch. And then you've got your deck. This is the deck, so pretty straightforward. You get your little flathead in here. You line up 2 coils opposing, and you stick it down. Now it has, as you can see, a reducer nut inside here. And you can literally just pull that out and put in a different one to your liking. Now, the Allen key that comes with has a little... wow, focus. The Allen key that comes with has a flat head situation going on, and I wonder if that is, in fact, to help you jimmy out these optional airflow nuts. So you can see, if you rocked it wide open, it'd be pretty extensive. Yeah. So you can change your nuts. So I can change from what I had in to this really small one. Just like that. Just push this one in instead. Happy days. And then we've changed it like that. Need to stick a coil in here and wick it up. So let's have a go at that. Alright guys. Put a little cheeky coil in here. Coming out at 0.5, so this little hive coil affair, right down the middle of the groove. No danger, nothing special there really. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to wick it up on camera, just so we can chat about the wicking and that. So let's wick it up. Right guys, I've now wicked it up. I'll take it off this base. I've wicked it up now. Lots to say. Okay, so let's get comfy. Oh, hold on to your hats. Right, so wicking. Big deal on this tank. It's all down to wicking. So many of these RTAs now, whether you like it or not, will come down to how well and how good you have got at wicking it. And that's just the sad reality of RTAs. So, when you're wicking it, coil, cotton straight through the coil, obviously, and then you get down to this groove. And what is so important here is the cotton has to be really neat and tidy through that groove, because when you put the chimney on, it cannot pull or push this cotton around. It has to remain like this once you've got the chamber on. Same on the other side, really neat, not on the threads at all, really tidy like that. Remember, it's a mouth to lung tank. We're at low wattage with this. It doesn't need to wick fast, but it does need to be a nice, neat thing inside. So, when we get our chamber here, what you're watching for, you're screwing it on, catch the threadings, so you're screwing it on like this, and you're looking really closely at both sides to make sure that the cotton isn't moving. Like that, all the way down. And even when you've done it, if you've noticed any movement at all, really try and get it back to how it looked before you started threading that cap on. It's really important, guys. Otherwise, this thing, you know, if it twists the cotton in there, it creates a little hole and the whole thing will flood out. So, the last thing I want to show you about this tank, and this is something I'm going to mention in the negatives, I'm not a big fan of the O-rings. I don't like the way the glass just sits on top there, and it's relying on sheer pressure of putting the tank back together really hard. The same on top. You see how this is a rounded O-ring on here? That's too rounded. If you look at other RTAs these days, they don't have your standard rounded O-ring on top. So when I do put this back together now, basically what this tank is relying on is the glass being literally forced together really hard against the metal. There's no clever, you know, suction there. It's all based on being tight together. So if you're messing around with the airflow ring, you could slightly loosen this off. I do think the O-rings could be better on this tank in terms of how it creates a vacuum, how it seals this tank. But there we go. We've got juice in now, so all I need to do is top fill it, and then I will see you up top for pros and cons. Okay guys, that was the Hastur Mouth to Lung RTA up close. Quite a lot of talk in that wicking. We'll come back to the wicking stuff in a bit. But this is the tank. This is how it is performing. So I have a 0.5 ohm coil in here. I'm at 22.2 watts. And yeah, vaping. I've got the 1.2 reducer in, and I have the mouth to lung drip tip in, and it is vaping a bit like this. A very nice vape, a very clearly authentic mouth to lung vape. Not only that, the flavour is very, very nice as well. Really cutting through. I've got a sort of a citrusy juice in here, which are often perfect for mouth to lung. And it's yeah, it's really cutting through. A very, very nice mouth to lung vape. Got the airflow right down, that 1.2 reducer in, and it is mouth to lung in a treat. Of course, you don't have to super mouth to lung this if you don't want to. You can not put a reducer in if you want. You can open the airflow right out, and you'd have a nice 45 watt RTA. You know, it can certainly handle that. Now, negatives. There's just two things that really stick out for me that I want to talk about as potential negatives. Firstly, and I talked about it down low, the O-ring situation on this tank. For me, this tank, to create a vacuum, to create a tight tank airflow wise, and to create the vacuum and the seal, this tank very much relies on the two top cap and bottom cap being insanely tight to the glass. The O-rings are just completely traditional round O-rings, and you really have to screw these down really hard to guarantee that seal. If you look at so many RTAs now, they'll have a flat O-ring, or they'll have a very clever O-ring within threading feel to it. This one just has big chunky round O-rings right on the top and bottom cap, and you literally got to grind it right in to get it going on. And I don't know why they're still doing that, to be honest. And for me, you know, that is an issue. If you over tighten, you could do damage to your glass. If you under tighten, you might not have the seal that you think you've got on this. It might not create a vacuum, and it might leak out. So that's a thing. The second one is the wicking. The wicking is unnecessarily fiddly for this tank. I don't know why all these mouth to lung vapes have decided they need to be GTA style decks. For whatever reason they have, and with GTA decks you've got to get the wicking just right. When you're screwing your chamber back on, you cannot let any of that cotton move around or twist inside that chamber. Otherwise, you're just going to leave a straight through gap for juice to fly through. And, you know, through the night, it might just flood out, you know, which has happened to me. Also, you've got, because the chamber is right on the threads and the cotton's going right through that threading, you've got to get just the right amount of cotton in that groove to not be not enough cotton, but also not be so much cotton that you are struggling to thread this on. So you've got to get that cotton right. You've got to take your time to wick this correctly. If you don't wick it right, you won't have a good experience and you won't like the RTA. I'm really happy with the build that I did down low. I'm really happy with the way it's vaping, the way it's wicking, and the way it's performing. So it's just a case of getting that wicking absolutely spot on. So yeah, so nail those things and happy days. It's vaping really nicely for me now. I'm really happy with this vape. Now, positives. There are a lot of positives with this tank. I love all the options and features that it comes with. 2 drip tips. One that's really closed up drip tip, one big open drip tip. That's really cool. The fact that it comes with a clear glass tank and a frosted glass tank is awesome as well. And I love all the reducers. You know, it's great that you've got all this variety and all these choices of reducers. You can absolutely dial in the perfect vape for you. It does make this airflow control a little bit redundant, but you know, ultimately you can adjust this to the exact airflow settings that you want to, and that is really good. That's always a positive with mouth to lung tanks. You know, that's super important that everyone has their own amount of airflow that they like for mouth to lung. So it's really good that I've got all those options. So that's the thing. That's the thing. All the cool little options that this comes with is great. Don't forget, this is only 30 quid in the UK, so you know, very affordable, and it comes with a lot of options, which is great. 3.5mm capacity. Obviously, as I've shown you with the deck, you've got those options. You can have your coil, you can wrap your coils clockwise or anti-clockwise, no problem at all, because you can put those in however you like. It is specifically single coil. You know, I can't even imagine how elaborate the dual coil would be to have to work in here, but it's a mouth to lung tank, so dual coil really isn't a requirement. It's very, very nice. I think the top fill thing is very clever, the way that works. It does give a strange sort of look to it though. I've got to say, it's a strange looking tank in some respects, so that's maybe a thing, but very nice tank, vaping very nicely for me, and I'm really enjoying the vape. Flavour's very good, wicking's very good, and yeah, a very, very nice vape, a very, very nice mouth to lung tank. It's just going to come down to your patience and your wicking ability as to how much you enjoy this tank. There's every chance that if you don't wick this right, you're going to have a hellish time with this tank. But if you get the wicking right, a very solid mouth to lung RTA from Cthulhu. I've been Vaping Vick. Please like, comment and subscribe. I'll see you again soon.